Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Rabbi Eliezer Malamed, Shlita. We continue our week of learning. Please continue davening for Chaylei Tzvaganai Yisrael, for Shlom Achal Pesukei Yisrael, and the safe return of our hostages. We learn each day L'Ilui Nishmat Seren, Daniel Shemen Arav Doron V'Sheli Shem Kam Damo. All of our tefillahs are needed, especially after a very, very difficult day of loss for our brothers and sisters in Israel yesterday. Those lost in a terror attack, and soldiers that were lost in battle. Hashem Yekum Damam. We continue the next chapter, Pesukei Dezimra. Ikar Pesukei Dezimra Heim Sheshes HaPrakim Acharonim Shebesefer Tehillim. The main part of Pesukei Dezimra are the final 6 chapters of Tehillim. Hechashuv Shebehem Hu Arishon, Tehillah LeDavid. The most important is the first, which is Tehillah LeDavid, aka Ashrei. V'chol ha'omro shalosh pa'amim b'chol yom, muftach lo sheben olam haba. That it is promised, the Gemara in Brachas tells us, that someone who says Ashrei 3 times a day is guaranteed that he'll go to Olam Haba. Sheshivachav misudaron lefnei seder ha'alef beis, because the praises of God are listed according to the Aleph Beis, the Hebrew alphabet. V'nisger ba pasukei chashuv posech es yodecha masbil chol chai ratzon, and of course it has that most important pasuk of how Hashem supports all living creatures. And of course, we say the pasuk of Ashrei Yoshvei Veisecha v'chulei in front of it, and that's why the paragraph is not really known as Tehillah LeDavid, though if you look into Tehillim, that's how it's written. But it is really known as Ashrei. Acharav Omer Chamisha Prakim HaPoschim Mesayimim BeHalaluka v'Aleihem Omer Rav Yossi Yehi Chelki Me Gomerei Halal B'chol Yom. Afterwards, we have the 5 chapters which are known as the Halalukas, and Rabbi Yossi says in the Gemara in Shabbos and Daf Kuf Yud Ches Amud Beis that may my portion be from those who complete Halal every single day, singing those songs of praise. B'tekufas ha-Savaroim, in the period of what's known as Rabbanan Savaroi, which is after the period of the Amoraim, so you're talking about after the period of the Gemara, after the year 600 or so, of the Common Era, Hinhigu Lomar Hodu. So then they began saying the chapter of Hodu, Shahi Hashirva Hahalel She'amar David Be'esh Shehichseres Aron Elokim Mishevi Pelishtim L'Oel HaMishkan. So at the period when the Holy Ark was captured by the Philistines and it was returned to the Jewish people, so David HaMelech, he's saying these words of praise. In the time of the Beis HaMikdash, they would say the first half, or half of it, when they brought the morning Tamid offering, and then in the afternoon Tamid they would say the remainder, the other half. Those of us who daven Minhag Ashkenaz, we say Baruch She'amar followed by Hodu, because we want to start with a bracha and ultimately end with a bracha, and therefore all the praises will be part of that bracha, beginning of Baruch She'amar. However, Minhag Sephard, Omrim Hodu Lefnei Baruch She'amar Mnei Shehu Hemshech La'amiras HaTamid. And according to those who daven Sfard or Nusach Sfard, Hodu is found before Baruch She'amar because it's not so much included in the bracha of Pesukei Dezimra, but rather it is a continuation of the recitation of the Karban Tamid, which is part of Karbanos. Otikma Savaroim, so the Masechah Sofrim tells us that the Rabbanan Savaroi further instituted Lomar Lefnei Ashrei Kovetz Pesukim HaPoschim Behi Chavod. We say a series of verses, but we open it up with Yehi Chavod Hashem. Sheyesh behem chizuk ha'emunah b'Hashem megulas Yisrael, because it has a strengthening of our faith in God and in the redemption of the nation of Israel. V'ha'ari hircha b'bir sodosav, and if one looks in the secrets and the writings of the Ari, or the teachings of the Ari, given it's found in the Kaf HaChaim, there are many secrets found in there as well. And then so we go even later in the period of the Gaonim, so this is already, you're talking about 800-900s and later. They have added further chapters and further verses to Pesukei Dezimra. And they have instituted to recite that small paragraph of Mizmor L'Soda, She'amar Chazal, Shekal Hashiros Asidos Livatel Chutz Mimena, because Chazal tell us it's a medrash in Vayikra Rabbah, in Ostes, Perek Tes Zion, that all of the songs ultimately will be no longer said, let's say, Zman HaMashiach, B'chein Royal Omer Benegina, that we should therefore say it with a proper singing. It's brought down in Halacha that one should sing Mizmor L'Soda. I've never seen anybody do that, but it's actually brought down in the Halacha. One should do so. And it's Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, so there's actually an Indian to sing it. Vein Omer also b'Shabbos v'Yom Tovim. We don't say Mizmor L'Soda on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Ela Omer b'Makamo Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbos. Instead, we say the chapter of Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbos. L'minhag Ashkenazim hu keneged Karban Toda shehayu b'Lachmei Chametz. And according to the Ashkenazim, that this recitation of Mizmor L'Soda corresponds to the Karban Toda, which had chametz. Therefore, l'chein ein Omer also b'Erev Pesach l'Chol HaMoed Pesach v'Erev Yom Kippur. We do not say Mizmor L'Soda on Erev Pesach or on Chol HaMoed Pesach or on Erev Yom Kippur, she'ein makrivim mehen Karban Toda, because on those instances and those days the Karban Toda was not brought. The Easter chametz or Atzom, either because of the prohibition of eating chametz on Pesach or Erev Pesach, or because of the fast going into Yom Kippur. She'ein makrivim mehen Karban Toda on those days. L'minhag Sefarad, Omer Osa b'Yamim Elu, and Sephardic custom does recite them, because the recitation is not necessarily to correspond to the bringing of the Toda offering, but rather it is for the song and praise part of it, and therefore it can be said on those aforementioned days. Kasvu HaGaonim, Sheish Nogim Lomer Vayivarach David. So further in the Gaonim we see that we have the chapter towards the end of Pesukei Dezimra Vayivarach David, V'Shiras Hayam Asher Shir Moshe V'nei Yisrael Hashem, and also of course what's known as the Shira, Azia Shir Moshe, which we find in Parshas B'Shalach, after the Jews crossed the sea miraculously, and they sang the song. V'amnam ikar Pesukei Dezimra Meshirei David K'fi she'omer b'nisach Birchas Baruch she'amar u'v'shirei David Avdecha Nahal Halacha. That, however, the main part of Pesukei Dezimra are the songs of David HaMelech, not even though those came from the period of Moshe Rabbeinu, but the songs of David HaMelech based on that pasuk. Ulam b'tkufas hagaonim hayu shenoagu lahosif psukim haTorah menachameha b'sof tekufas harishonim kvar nohag kol omram. But we see already in the period of the Gaonim, much later on, that they would add these psukim from the Torah and also from Sefer Nehemiah, and at the end of the period of the Rishonim already this becomes quite accepted. So nowadays we have a pretty much set schedule of what we say during Pesukei Dezimra, again, depending on what nusach you daven, but we're not adding or taking anything off because it seems to be pretty set in stone, even though over time in the different periods of the Amoraim, Rabbanan Savaroi, and Gaonim, and then to the Rishonim, things sort of become canonized, and we now have Pesukei Dezimra as we know it today. So hopefully you'll think about this the next time you recite Pesukei Dezimra. Please continue davening for Chaylei Tzvagan Yisrael, for Shalom L'Chol Tzvei Yisrael, and the safe return of our hostages. Nishmat Daniel Shimon Arav Daron V'Sheli Hashem Yakum Damo. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.